When you look at a skyscraper, it's pretty amazing, right? All that steel, glass, and concrete. But your own body? It's infinitely more complex. And get this, it's built from just a handful of fundamental materials. Today, we're going to dive into those essential building blocks, your body's master tissues. So think about this for a second. Your body is made of something like 100 trillion cells. That number is it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. But here's the thing. They aren't just a chaotic jumble of cells. They're all working together, organized into these specialized teams. The big question is, how?
Well, the secret is tissues. And what's truly amazing is that all that mind-bending complexity we just talked about, it all comes down to just 4 master types. That's it. Epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous tissue. Each one has a totally distinct, absolutely vital job in making you, well, you.
Okay, first up, let's talk about our protective shield. This is the body's living wallpaper, epithelial tissue. This is basically the stuff that separates everything that's inside you from the big, wide outside world. Just think of it as the ultimate gatekeeper. We're talking about your skin, the lining of your digestive tract, your airways, pretty much any surface that needs a boundary. The cells are packed together super tightly, kind of like bricks in a wall, creating this really formidable barrier. So you might be wondering, how can one type of tissue do so many different jobs? The secret is in its design, which is actually incredibly efficient. It all boils down to just 2 simple things: the shape of the cells and how many layers they're stacked in. And this picture shows that principle perfectly. If you need gases like oxygen to pass through quickly, like in your lungs, you want a single layer of really thin, flat cells. But for something like your skin, which needs to protect you from scrapes, you want lots and lots of layers stacked on top of each other. It's this beautiful, elegant system where the form perfectly matches the function. All right, next up is connective tissue. So if epithelial tissue is the wallpaper, then connective tissue is the building's scaffolding, its glue, and maybe even its plumbing system. It's the stuff that holds everything together. This is by far the most diverse group of tissues we have. Unlike those tightly packed epithelial cells, connective tissue cells are kind of scattered around in what's called an extracellular matrix. Now, don't let the name scare you. Just think of it like bits of fruit suspended in jello. And it's that jello, that matrix, that determines what the tissue does, whether that's holding your organs in place or storing energy as fat. And you can really see that diversity in action right here. This is dense connective tissue. You see how all those collagen fibers are lined up all parallel? That structure is what gives tendons their incredible rope-like strength, which they need to connect your muscles to your bones. But then you've got this stuff, cartilage. Its matrix is much more gel-like, almost rubbery. This makes it firm enough to give your nose its shape and to cushion your joints, but it's also flexible enough that you can, bend your ear. It's part of the same tissue family, but with a completely different feel and a totally different job. And now for a fun fact that really shows you the incredible range of this tissue type. Some connective tissue is totally fluid. That's right, blood is technically a type of connective tissue. Its cells are just floating in a liquid matrix called plasma, creating this literal river of life that transports everything your body needs everywhere it needs to go. Wild, right? Okay, so we've got our protective layers and our internal framework. Now we need some action. And that brings us to the body's motors, muscle tissue. These are the movers and shakers. They're responsible for every single movement you make. The magic of muscle really comes down to 2 key properties. First, it's excitable, which just means it can respond to a signal, usually from a nerve. And second, it's contractile, meaning it has this amazing ability to shorten up, to pull, and to generate force. That simple pulling action is the foundation of all movement. And we have 3 main types of muscle, each with a specific job. You've got skeletal muscle, which is the stuff you control consciously, walking, talking, typing. Then there's cardiac muscle. It's found only in the heart, and it beats involuntarily, day and night, without you ever having to think about it. And finally, there's smooth muscle, which also works involuntarily behind the scenes, in your digestive tract and blood vessels, just keeping everything moving along smoothly. So finally, to make all this work together, we need a control system. Welcome to the body's high-speed data network, its very own internet, nervous tissue. This is the master controller of the whole operation. And the star of this show is the neuron. You can think of its dendrites as little antennae picking up signals. The cell body is like the processor, figuring out what to do with that information. And that long axon? That's the cable, transmitting the signal on to the next cell. The whole process is like a lightning-fast electrochemical relay race. An electrical impulse zips down the axon. When it gets to the end, it triggers the release of these chemical messengers that literally jump across a tiny gap, called the synapse, to hit the next cell in line. And this all happens in a fraction of a second? It's incredible. So there you have it, our four master builders. But, they don't stay in perfect condition forever. So what happens when these amazing materials get damaged? Let's take a look at how our tissues break down, whether it's from a sudden injury or just the slow, steady process of aging. The moment you get a cut, your body's repair crew just springs into action. First, you get inflammation, which brings in immune cells to clean up the mess. Then, a clot forms a scab to seal the wound. Underneath that scab, new tissue starts to form, and finally, regeneration replaces the damaged cells. Sometimes you're left with a scar, just a little reminder of the amazing repair job your body pulled off. But not all damage is so sudden. As the writer Ralph Waldo Emerson put it, the surest poison is time. And our tissues, well, they are definitely not immune to its effects. As the years go by, our building blocks just change. The fibers in our connective tissues decrease, and that's what leads to things like wrinkles and stiffer joints. Our skin gets a little thinner, and our cells just don't regenerate as fast as they used to, which is why it takes longer to heal from things as we get older. It's a completely natural part of the body's life story, a process every single one of us goes through. So when you step back and look at it, our entire existence is built from just these four basic types of tissue. They're the shield that protects us, the framework that supports us, the engines that move us, and the network that lets us think and feel. They are quite literally the fabric of our lives, and knowing how they work is the first step to taking care of them. So the only question left is, what will you do with yours?